What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Savage Rounds. This is episode 15, and today we're going to go through and do a breakdown and talk a little bit about bets for UFC 288. This card's a banger, top to bottom, from the early prelims to the main event, as you can see here. There's going to be fireworks. I'm really excited for this one. We're coming off a really good week last week. A lot of bets hit. We came out on top profit wise, and Savage Rounds hit again. That's 4-1 in the last 5. So we'll have another one of those at the end of the episode, and we hope to keep that going. Make it 5-1 in our last 6, or it'd probably still be 4-1 in the last 5. But here we go. Kicking off the night, we've got a bantamweight bout between Daniel Willie Cat Santos and Johnny Munoz. Santos is 11-2, 5'7", 67-inch reach. 28 years old, 3-2 in his last 5, 1-1 in the UFC. His last fight was a round 2 KO TKO win versus John Castaneda at the end of last year. On the Munoz side, he's 12-2, 5'9", 71-inch reach, 30 years old, 3-2 in his last 5, 2-2 in the UFC. His last fight was a unanimous decision win versus Ludwig Shaolinian. This fight is one that this one's going to be fireworks. Like I said, top to bottom, we've got bangers. Just the way Willie Cat fights, no matter who he's fighting, it's going to make for an exciting fight. He's going to be moving forward. He's got really good power in his hands. He's super aggressive, which I really like for this matchup. Johnny Munoz, he's not the best on the feet. Is not bad by any means, but I think the aggression and the wildness Santos brings will cause problems for it on the feet. And I really do think Santos actually has some pretty good wrestling and grappling in general, which I do think will be able to handle the shots coming in from Munoz. I think he can keep this standing and hurt Munoz on the feet. He's got good kicks to all 3 levels, really powerful, quick kicks. Tends to throw some spinning stuff. Can get himself in danger that way, but I think on the feet he'll be okay here. I really like Daniel Santos in this one to kick the night off, so I'm going with him. Bet-wise, I don't mind playing Daniel Santos straight up. I feel pretty confident about this pick. I won't be betting the money line here, though. If you are going to bet this one, I feel like you get more value out of Santos KO at plus 160. And Santos is not bad at BJJ himself. Munoz is the black belt here. Maybe Santos is too. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know he's got solid jiu-jitsu. 2 submissions on his record. If there's a little club and sub action here, I don't. It's not out of the picture. It's taking a shot at Santos sub plus 1,000. I don't hate. I just thought the odds were kind of crazy on that, so I thought I'd bring it up. Those are the only 2 I'm personally considering. I don't know if I will end up, but I do like Daniel Santos for this fight. Moving on, we've got a middleweight fight. I'm excited for this one. Ugly Man, Joe Holmes, Claudio Ribeiro. Holmes is 8-3, 6'4", 80-inch reach, 27 years old, 3-2 in his last 5 with a Contender Series win, and he's 1-2 in the UFC. His last fight was a round 2 submission loss versus Jun Young Park. And on the Claudio Ribeiro side, he's 10-3, 6'1", 77-inch reach, 30 years old, 4-1 in his last 5 with a Contender Series win, and he is 0-1 in the UFC. His last fight was that UFC loss. It was a round 2 KO TKO loss versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan. It was pretty back and forth in the first round. Razak, I'd say, came out with the win, or the round being his, and then early in the second round caught him with some big power shots and was able to put him down. This is one where I really think. So my problem with Holmes is his cardio seems to be pretty bad. In all his fights, he seems pretty gassed going into like the middle of round 2, which is a little bit scary. But I don't know if this is a fight where that will come up. I think Ribeiro's going to be throwing big shots, swinging wild, the big hooks. He likes to throw the overhands. And I think Holmes can, if he can kind of keep out of the way, he doesn't seem to get hit with too big of shots in the UFC so far. I like him to keep those shots straight down the middle, use that. I don't think knockout is by any way his path to victory, but I think that's what he needs to do while it is standing. But he's the bigger man here, 6'4", and he's got the grappling advantage, I'd say, by quite a big shot. Ribeiro, I believe he's got it's one or two submission losses on his record with no submissions himself. I think if Holmes can push him up against the fence here, we'll be able to see him kind of be able to get his grappling going, use those trips he likes to get people down, and I do think he can find the sub here. So I'm gonna go with the underdog here, Holmes, to get the win. Obviously, Ribeiro could catch him with something huge because he's got dynamite in his hands, but I do think Holmes will not test those kind of waters for too long if he does at all. I think he'll get the clinch up against the fence going and try to work his takedowns pretty quickly into this fight. Betting wise, I don't mind playing Holmes inside the distance at plus 275. I do think the sub is more likely, but I'm also seeing a world where he could go ground and pound and get him out of there, just with how big and heavy he's going to be on top. But I do think the sub is the safer one there. Inside the distance, you can get it plus 275. If you want to be a little bit riskier, you can get KO plus 1,000. Or if you just want to play the sub line, it's plus 425. Just for Holmes finishes if you're on that same side. Money line at plus 150. Don't mind taking a shot out if you're on the underdog side here. And I think under 1.5 at minus 130 probably hits on either side, to be honest. Either Ribeiro's going to starch him, or you can see Holmes getting that takedown and going to work there. I'm going to be on the Holmes side here, pick-wise. Moving on, we've got a flyweight bout. Another one I'm really excited for. I'm super high on Rafael Estevam. He's taking on Zhalgas Zhumagulov, who we thought was retiring, but is coming back for this fight. Estevam is 11-0, 5'8", 69-inch reach, 26 years old, 5-0 in his last 5 with a Contender Series win, which was his last fight. He got a round 2 KO TKO win versus João Elias. That was in September of last year. And on the Zhumagulov side, he's 14-8, 5'4", 66.5-inch reach, 34 years old. 1-4 in his last 5, but he's been hard done by on some decisions recently. And his last fight was a split decision loss versus Charles Johnson at the end of last year, which that is not a fight he lost. I felt bad for him on on that fight. I bet Charles Johnson in that fight, so I was happy to take the cash out, but he didn't win that fight. Zhumagulov definitely won that fight. But here I feel like Zhumagulov, he's got his foot out the door already. He's thinking retirement. He probably feels pretty dejected with how the decisions have been going for him lately. Just nothing seems to go his way. And whenever fighters start to talk about retirement, it worries me. Estevam is super aggressive, shoots really powerful takedowns, is heavy on top, has great ground and pound, can find submissions if he needs. He's going to be the much bigger guy in this fight, even though Zhumagulov is probably going to try the same thing, pushing forward, try and hold him up against the fence, drag him down. I think Estevam is going to be able to impose his own strength and takedowns and top control, knees in the clinch, that kind of deal. I just feel like Estevam's going to be too big and powerful in this fight for Zhumagulov. I'm really high on Estevam. He looks like a really good prospect to me. I like him to get his first UFC win here in his debut. I don't mind taking the shot. I know Zhumagulov hasn't been finished too many times. I think he has 2 KO TKO losses on his record. But just the way Estevam has looked in his recent fights, the pressure he brings, and how vicious his ground and pound has looked, I don't think it's out of the question, and you can get that KO TKO line at plus 500. I have a harder time seeing Zhumagulov being subbed here than I do the TKO kind of finish, ground and pound kind of finish. So if I was going to bet Estevam, that's probably the route I would take if you're looking prop-wise. I honestly, personally, like I said, I'm very high on Estevam here. I don't mind the minus 182. I know it's a little crazy. He's unproven at a higher level. But this is a prospect I'm really high on, in my opinion. I've got Estevam here all day. Moving on, another banger. Like I said, this card's going to be crazy. Khaos, Ikram Aliskerov. I think I said that right. Ali Skarov. Khaos is 12-4, 6 feet tall, 77.5-inch reach, 34 years old, 3-2 in his last 5. His last fight was that round 1 KO TKO loss versus Roman Dolidze. That fight was disgusting. He got his knee popped out in like this leg lock sort of position off to the side. It wasn't straight on, and it really messed his knee up. And he stood up and wasn't able to fully stand on it and just got crushed up against the cage with a big like shovel hook kind of deal. And he was out cold. It was brutal. On the Ali Skarov side, he's 13-1. That only loss is a mean uppercut knockout from Khamzat Chimaev in Brave FC. It is a brutal KO. It's a pretty sick one, though. If you want to go watch it, the uppercut is beautiful. 13-1, 5'9", 76-inch reach, 30 years old, 5-0 in his last 5 with a Contender Series win. His last fight was that Contender Series win. It was a round 1 submission versus Mario Souza. Ali Skarov's going to have to push forward here and shoot for takedowns on the feet. I don't think he sees any success or much success, any at all, in my opinion. He's going to move forward and shoot those takedowns. He's looked a bit suspect in some recent fights. He was getting shoved off early by Mario Souza. Souza was taken to the ground in the end, but it took Ikram a little bit. I think with the wrestling background and the size advantage Phil Howes has here, I think Ali Skarov's going to have a hard time getting this fight to the ground. I think he's going to be able to hit him with some big shots and find the TKO finish here. There's a decent amount of underdogs I like on this card, and this is definitely one of them. There is definitely a world where Iskarov drags him down and is able to hold him down, but I personally really think the size and strength and wrestling background of Hawes, I think he's got like 80% takedown defense. I really like Hawes in this spot to be able to stop takedowns and use his size and throw big shots, connect with some big shots on the feet. I think he gets this one done. If you're going to go Hawes, the money line's plus 180, not bad if you're on that side. And you can get the KO TKO at plus 350, which I have a hard time seeing a decision here if he's able to keep this standing. Next up, Braxton Smith, Parker Porter. This is one of those don't blink type of fights, I think. Braxton Smith, 5-1, 5'11". I didn't see any reach stats for him. He's 33 years old, 5-0 in his last 5. That only loss was the first fight in his UFC career versus Chase Sherman. And then he had like a ridiculously long layoff and got these next 5 fights out pretty quick, all first round knockouts, including that last one, which was in March of this year. It was a round 1 KO TKO versus Ja'Cory Savage, who he'd knocked out previously in 49 seconds. He did it a little bit faster this time. I don't know why the matchup was made. I think it was for a title, so that's probably why they ended up meeting there. But on the other side, Parker Porter, 13-8, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach, 34 years old, 3-2 in his last 5 with a round 1 KO TKO loss versus Justin Tafa in his last fight, which was in February of this year. So it didn't take too much time off a one-shot knockout from Justin Tafa, which I don't like too much coming into this matchup just because of the type of fighter Braxton Smith is and being at heavyweight in general. These dudes hit hard. The under 1.5 is super live here. If Braxton Smith doesn't find the knockout pretty quick, I think Parker Porter can wear on him and make him tired and land his own shots. But I have a hard time with how Parker Porter's looked recently. Seeing Braxton Smith not being able to find the... Alright, I won't say not a hard time, but I favor Braxton Smith to find the knockout early here. I think Parker Porter, he tends to get into brawls when it's not the best idea for him. Was doing it against Justin Tafa, was willing to stand there and trade, rushed him, and got caught coming in. I could totally see something like that happening again. I like the power of Braxton Smith to get this one done. Smith money line plus 148. I probably wouldn't take. If you're gonna bet Braxton Smith, you might as well get a tad bit of a better line at with the KO at plus 165, or even better, to be honest, if you're betting Braxton Smith, because if it gets out of the first round, I have a hard time seeing him winning. But that Braxton Smith round 1 KO at plus 215 is probably the best option if you're betting Braxton Smith, just because that's most likely his only path to victory. The under 1.5 I also like. Like I said, if he can't find that quick knockout, I think Parker Porter can wear him down. Braxton Smith will be tired, and he'll find a quick knockout either end of the first, early in the second. So it is a bit of a steep line, minus 185. We're almost touching minus 200, but I have a hard time seeing this fight getting to the end of the second round. I'll just edge it to Braxton Smith though, with the power and the little streak he's on. Next up, strawweight prelim on the women's side. I guess there's no men's strawweight, but Marina Rodriguez, Verna Jandiroba. Rodriguez is 16-2-2, 5'6", 65-inch reach, 36 years old, 4-1 in her last 5, with her last fight being a round 3 KO TKO loss versus Amanda Lemos. Verna Jandiroba, 18-3, 5'3", 64-inch reach, 34 years old, 3-2 in her last 5, unanimous decision win versus Angela Hill as her last fight. This was a hard one for me to pick because Verna Jandiroba, solid takedowns. She's not like an elite takedown artist or anything, but she's got solid takedowns, and her top pressure is very heavy. She's got solid ground and pound, great jiu-jitsu. And there's definitely a world where Marina Rodriguez gets dragged down, and Jandiroba lays on top of her for 3 rounds and wins a decision, or is able to find like the ground and pound. But we've seen Marina Rodriguez fight these elite grapplers before. Mackenzie Dern, Amanda Ribas. She's beat both of them. I feel like this is that same kind of deal here. I think I have Jandiroba at minus 124. I think that's supposed to be plus 124, not minus. But I think Marina Rodriguez is able to get up from takedowns a bit early as they're coming to her in the first round, and as the fight goes on, she's able to stuff more and more takedowns, and on the feet, I think she'll be able to piece up Jandiroba. I like Marina Rodriguez as this fight goes on to continue to build and win this fight over 3 rounds. I'm staying away from this one betting-wise just because, like I said, there's totally a world where Jandiroba lays on top of her and is able to win a decision or use that ground and pound or the jiu-jitsu. But I slightly edge it to Marina Rodriguez here, just pick-wise. Next up, Khaos Williams versus the debuting Rolando Bedoya. This is probably, just in my opinion, the safest parlay piece. A lot of people on Twitter are rolling with it too. I feel pretty comfortable after watching tape with this one. Khaos Williams is 13-3, 6 feet tall, 77-inch reach, 29 years old, 3-2 in his last 5. His last fight was a split decision loss versus Randy Brown, which I do remember a lot of people thinking he won. I personally had Randy Brown, but I know people had Williams after that fight. On the Bedoya side, he is 14-1, 5'11". I didn't see any reach stat yet. He's 26 years old, 5-0 in his last 5. His last fight was a round 2 submission win versus Pablo Dorta. They fought in the same week in 2022 in May. So been quite a bit of time for both of them, just about a year. And after watching tape, we all know the one-shot power Khaos Williams possesses. That's what got him into the position he's in, moving up the ladder like he has to getting that fight with Randy Brown. And watching Bedoya, he's extremely hittable. He's been dropped before. It doesn't seem like he's big on head movement. He doesn't really partake in head movement for some reason, and that is a bad recipe against Khaos Williams. I think Khaos Williams touches his chin early and is able to get a quick round 1 knockout here. I personally will probably be using Khaos as a parlay piece at some point if I can find another line I like for that. Maybe he's in the Savage Rounds parlay, who knows. But another line I will definitely be taking, or at least placing a small spot on, is Williams round 1 KO at plus 180. The KO just for any round is minus 140, and I just have a hard time seeing Bedoya not getting touched early. So I'm going with Khaos Williams to win this fight, and I don't personally mind a sprinkle on Khaos Williams round 1 knockout at all. Next up, we've got a light heavyweight prelim. Kennedy Nzechukwu, Devin Clark. Nzechukwu is 11-3, 6'5", 83-inch reach, 30 years old, 3-2 in his last 5. His last fight was a round 2 KO TKO win versus Ion Cutelaba in November of last year. Devin Clark, 14-7, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach, 33 years old, 2-3 in his last 5, and his last fight was that unanimous decision versus Da Woon Jung. That was in February of this year. That was the card with all of the road to the UFC finals on that card. The one that was supposed to be in South Korea, but Korean Zombie pulled out, so it ended up just being an Apex card. I really like Kennedy Nzechukwu in this spot. I think he'll be able to find the knockout. We've seen Clark get hurt before by big punchers, and we know the plan. There's no way he's going to sit here and try and strike with Nzechukwu. He's going to rush forward and shoot the takedowns. Nzechukwu is shown to be able to get up from those, stuff some takedowns. He is 6'5". He's a huge guy in this matchup, or a huge guy in any matchup. I think he'll be able to avoid damage on the ground when he's down there, get up from getting taken down, and then start to shuck off takedowns as the fight goes on. I think Nzechukwu finds his chin at some point and gets this knockout. I'm on the Nzechukwu side here. Personally, there is a chance this goes to decision if Clark is able to kind of hold him down. We've seen Clark take people to decisions before using the clinch and the grappling. He did that versus Da Woon Jung in his last fight. And Nzechukwu was tough. He's fought grapplers before that. In Nikolai Negumereanu fight, it was a split decision loss. I think most people feel he won that fight, and that was one where Nikolai was trying to get him to the ground. He knocks out Ion Cutelaba as he's wrestling, trying to get him to the ground. There's a huge knee up the middle. I think this is one where Nzechukwu can get this done. I've got him in this spot. The KO's plus 150. I don't mind it. Maybe a small sprinkle. I'll probably stay away and just enjoy this fight. But yeah. Next up, the people's main event, a fight that should be on the main card. I really don't understand why it's not, especially with Movsar Evolev's opponent pulling out. This fight totally should have been pushed up the card. We've got Drew Dober versus Matt Frevola, the steamroller. I love this fight. This is going to be a banger. Drew Dober, 26-11, 5'8", 70-inch reach, 34 years old, 3-2 in his last 5. His last fight being a round 2 KO TKO win versus Bobby Green in December of last year. Steamroller is 10-3-1, 5'9", got a 71-inch reach, 32 years old, 3-2 in his last 5, and had a nasty round 1 knockout versus Otman Azaitar in November of last year. This is one we've heard Frevola talk about it. He wants a standing KO. He said he's coming out ready to bang. He's got big power, but with the chin Drew Dober's got, it doesn't seem like a smart decision to me. Especially we've seen Frevola get chinned before. He's been knocked out 2 or 3 times. I think if he's got a chance of winning this fight, I think he can do a little striking here and there, but he's got to be pretty careful and definitely mix in the wrestling, which he hasn't shot in a takedown. I don't know if that's a word. He hasn't shot a takedown in the past 4 fights. 2 of them one of them he was knocked out by Terrence McKinney in like 7 seconds, and the other one, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Arman Sarukian. Shot like 10 takedowns on him, and Frevola was on the ground for most of it. But in his last 2 wins, they're both knockouts. He's definitely fallen in love with the knockout as of late. So I don't see a world where he goes wrestling heavy here, which kind of scares me. I think Drew Dober, I'll be rooting Steamroller all the way. I love Matt Frevola, but I feel like if he chooses to stand and bang with Drew Dober like he says he is, and with his track record in his last 2 wins of not shooting a single takedown, I think that could be a bad recipe for him, where he gets cracked a few times and goes down, or even just cracked once and goes down. But with that being said, the only bet I will be placing on this fight is Frevola decision plus 450, just because the line is crazy. I feel like Dober's hard to knock out, and if he can work that wrestling, he could find the win. It's going to be a tough ask, but the plus 450 line just seemed pretty nice, and I think that's Frivola's main path to victory here. Obviously, he's got pretty big power in his hands, so maybe he could find the knockout. Dober got cracked by McKinney, but I don't know, his chin's held up forever, so who knows. The Frivola KO is plus 600 if anybody is feeling a little risky taking a shot on that, but I personally, if I do end up making a play on this fight, it'll probably be Frivola plus 450. I think there definitely will be people using Drew Dober minus 205 as a parlay piece just because of Frivola's decision to stand and bang. But I personally, that'll be my only play if I do play anything on this one. But I'm barely gonna edge it to Drew Dober just because of the stand and bang situation that seems to be going on here. Next up, we get to the main card. This also didn't need to be on the main card. This could have been switched if anything. But we've got Kron Gracie, the return, versus Charles Air Jourdain. Gracie is 5-1, 5'9", 70-inch reach, 34 years old, 4-1 in his last 5. His last fight being a unanimous decision loss versus Cub Swanson in October of 2019. So it's been just under 4 years since he's fought. On the Jourdain side, he is 13, 6-1, 5'9", got a 69-inch reach, 27 years old, 2-3 in his last 5, and his last fight was a unanimous decision loss versus Nathaniel Wood. This is a weird fight, another one I probably won't be betting. Maybe like a sprinkle on Jourdain late rounds to find a finish, or maybe even Gracie round 1 sub, or just Gracie sub in general, because if Gracie's going to win, it's going to be by submission, and I don't feel super confident playing that because of the long layoff. He's an older guy. He's got 6 total MMA fights. That's as many losses as Jourdain has. The layoff and the small record in general scares me, but we know the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is on another level, and that is always going to be the option there for him. I think all 5 of his wins are submissions. So if you are going to play Kron Gracie, I feel like I saw somebody say it on Twitter earlier, his submission line, which is plus 175, that's basically his money line. You might as well play the submission line if you're going to play the money line. I'd have a hard time seeing him win by decision. But on the Jourdain side, if he can avoid being submitted, kind of keep his distance early, pop shots at Kron Gracie, and kind of wear him down through the first round, I think there's definitely a world where he can find a second or third round finish, just because on the feet he will have the big advantage, and the longer this fight goes, I feel like the more it favors him. You can get Jourdain round 2 plus 600, Jourdain round 3 plus 725. There might be a little sprinkle for me on both of those, but I don't trust either one enough to be confident in a pick or play a money line. My pick will just be Jourdain. I think with the layoff and the athleticism, the activity from Jourdain, he's got like 6 fights in the past 2 or 3 years. I really think Jourdain can avoid the early finish and piece Kron Gracie up the longer this fight goes on. That'll be my pick, but like I said, not confident enough to place a bet on either one of them. Moving on, we've got Movsar Evloev, Diego Lopez. I'll keep this one pretty short. Evloev 16-0, 5'7", 72.5-inch reach, 29 years old, 5-0 in his last 5, with his last fight being a unanimous decision win versus Dan Ige, which was June of last year. On the Lopez side, he's 21-5, 5'11", 72.5-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5, with his last fight being a round 2 KO TKO win versus Angel Rodriguez. Angel Rodriguez was an 0-3 MMA fighter, or is an 0-3 MMA fighter, and to go from an 0-3 dude who's been finished 3 times to Movsar Evloev, 16-0, elite grappling, on a week's notice, even less. I think it's 5 or 6 days notice to be exact. This is an awful matchup for Diego Lopez. He's going to get dragged down, and I personally think Movsar will find the finish. Who knows? Maybe it gets dragged out, but I think Movsar is going to run through this guy pretty easily. He was supposed to fight Bryce Mitchell, and that minus 290 was going to be my favorite play of the card. I think the strength and it would have been too much for Bryce Mitchell, and I think Evloev's grappling is probably a level above Bryce Mitchell. Maybe not pure jiu-jitsu, but MMA grappling in general, I would say he'd have the advantage there. But yeah, Movsar runs through this guy. We get to the next fight, Jessica Andrade, Yan Xiaonan. Jessica Andrade is 24-10. She's 5'1", 62-inch reach, 31 years old, 3-2 in her last 5, with that last fight being a round 2 submission loss versus Erin Blanchfield in February of this year. That was a very impressive performance from Blanchfield. I was on the wrong side of that one. I thought the pressure from Andrade was going to be too much, but Blanchfield showed some pretty good striking, was able to land solid shots of her own, get Andrade to the ground, and submit her pretty quickly. On the Xiaonan side, she's 16-3, 5'5", 63-inch reach, 33 years old, 3-2 in her last 5, with her last fight being a majority decision win versus Mackenzie Dern. A lot of people thought she lost that fight. Or maybe I'm thinking of the wrong fight. I can't remember. I don't know. This fight is, I could totally be falling into the trap again here, but I'm gonna do it. I'm riding with Andrade. It'll be the same exact reason for against Blanchfield. I think Andrade is the more well-rounded fighter here. I think she's gonna move forward and throw bombs. I think the power will be a little overwhelming for Xiaonan, and just the aggression and the way Andrade moves forward will be too much. I like Andrade to either find a decision or overwhelm her and find a TKO, but I'm definitely on the Andrade side here. I will be staying away betting-wise, though, just because of how the last Andrade fight went. So I just want to see if she's still able to beat these. I don't know, maybe not say that, maybe still be able to beat these top girls, because obviously she's one of the most elite women's fighters there is, but the last fight was enough to push me away betting-wise, I'll just say that. Co-main event, one of the fights I'm super excited for, Belal Muhammad, Gilbert Burns. This fight has to be for the next title shot. I feel like it'll probably still be Colby, which is stupid in my opinion. I'd love to see the winner of this fight get the next title shot versus Leon, but who knows what happens. Belal Muhammad, 22-3, 5'11", 72-inch reach, 34 years old, 4-0-1 in his last 5, with his last fight being that round 2 KO TKO win versus Sean Brady. Gilbert Burns, 22-5, 5'10", 71-inch reach, 36 years old, 3-2 in his last 5. His last fight being a unanimous decision win versus Jorge Masvidal, which was just under a month ago, not too long ago now. He escaped that fight without any damage, so he was a-okay to get right back into this one and stay active, which I really like. I was super impressed with Belal Muhammad's last fight. His jab looked really good. He was able to work behind the jab and then land his 2 quite a bit. Didn't even really have to go to the grappling here. Obviously, I don't think this fight is going to go as smoothly as that one did, but I think Belal Muhammad can, I won't say outpace Gilbert Burns, but almost, not outwork him either, I don't know, but keep the same pace, I guess outpace, keep the same pace over 5 rounds. I don't know if, obviously Burns has the big explosions as it gets late into the rounds. We saw that in the Khamzat fight. It wasn't steady action from him in 2 and 3. I guess 2 was definitely better for him, but in round 3, it was big explosions of action. And I think just if Belal keeps on this trajectory he's on, I think he's able to keep the jab working, dodge the big shots from Durango. Obviously, he'll have to be able to eat some because of the fighter Gilbert Burns is. But I think if he fights behind that jab, I think his grappling is good enough, or I'll say wrestling is good enough to defend takedowns or get up relatively quickly if Gilbert Burns gets him down. I like Belal to kind of push a pace through 5 rounds and win this fight behind his jab, which feels kind of crazy to say, but I was just super impressed with Belal, and I think he'll be able to avoid most of the big shots from from Burns and defend takedowns as he needs. Maybe even clinch up against the fence to wear on Burns, do a little bit of that kind of work. I really like Belal here at plus 108. If you're on the same side as me, I don't mind taking a shot at the underdog here at all. But yeah, banger co-main event. I'm really excited for this fight, and hopefully it lines up the next welterweight title fight. Moving on to the main event, bantamweight title fight. Aljamain the Funkmaster Sterling, Henry the Messenger Cejudo returning after 3 years. Never lost his belt, was the double champ. Aljamain Sterling looking to defend his belt for the 3rd time after winning it via illegal knee from Peter Yan, defending for real, and then getting TJ Dillashaw out of there pretty quick. I'm on the Sterling side on this one. I've seen this fight is super split on Twitter and just in the MMA world, it seems. It's super split. I think the size of Aljamain, I think his strength, I think he's going to be more explosive. I think at this point in their careers, I think he's going to be quicker. I like Aljo to get it done over 5 rounds here. I think Henry hasn't fought in 3 years. Obviously, he's still been in the gym and stuff and working with fighters. He was helping in camps a lot. But I just feel like the activity Sterling's had, I guess not like a crazy amount of activity, but just compared to Cejudo, he's defended his belt twice. And like I said, for me, mostly here, it's size, explosiveness, strength, and speed. I think Aljamain will be able to walk forward, and throw a lot of shots, kind of put a pace on Cejudo early. I know Cejudo's definitely there to be able to match that. I just don't know how long with this layoff he'll be able to match that for. And watching back tape, Cejudo likes to throw those kicks. He gets kicks caught quite a bit. If Aljamain can catch those kicks and use that to get Cejudo to the ground, if he can find a backpack, I have a hard time seeing how Cejudo can get out of that. And if it's late rounds, 3, 4, 5, there's definitely a submission live for Aljamain Sterling. I think a decision is quite likely for Sterling if he's able to have control and to use his pace and be smart with it. We've seen him tire before. He was dead in that Peter Yan fight when he got kneed. He was very lucky in that fight to escape with the belt. But I think he's gained some experience from then. He'll know how to pace himself. We saw him do it against Peter Yan the next time. Be smart, get to the backpack more, not blow his load early, trying to throw a crazy amount of strikes. I like Aljamain in this fight to get this one done, defend his title for the 3rd time. I'm really excited for this one. I don't know, again, I don't mind a bet on Sterling here. I've seen a lot of people do it. I've even seen a lot of bets on Cejudo. I personally will probably be staying away from this one. Maybe like a half unit type of play on Sterling, just to have something on it for fun, But I really like Aljamain Sterling to get this win here. Moving on to the Savage Rounds parlay, we've got to keep the streak going. I wish I knew off the top how many it is in a row, but I do know that it's 4-1 in the last 5. The first pick was probably pretty easy. Khaos Williams minus 315. Like I said, that one, other than the old Movsar versus Bryce line, this is my favorite play. It would have 100% been Movsar and Khaos if Movsar was still fighting Bryce Mitchell, but the line, minus 600 versus this random guy. I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to watch Movsar run through him. I'll take Khaos Williams for the first leg. Next leg, this one might be a little risky. I went back and forth on a few unders, a few fight doesn't go the distances, but I ended up running with Rafael Estevam. Like I said, this is one of my favorite prospects. Coming out of Contender Series, I was super high on Tatsuro Taira. Obviously, it's not exactly the same skill set, but just another young grappling type prospect that I'm very high on. I think Estevam gets this win here. I'm always down to bet on fighters that are fighting guys who have a foot out the door, are thinking retirement already, and like I said, the size advantage is going to be pretty sizable for Estevam here. I like these two legs. You could get it at plus 104. I'm definitely gonna be putting a bid on this. I mean, we always put a unit on the parlay just to keep it going, or to keep the record going. We're in, I don't know the exact number, but we're up like 1.8 units or 1.5 units or something for the year. We had a really choppy first couple months, but it's picked up this month, last month, and we're into the positive. So we're going to keep that little train going. I like this parlay to keep that going. But yeah, we'll see you guys Monday. The upload will be Monday for the review of this card. Then we'll have some matchups made. Then we'll get into the breakdown for the next fight. Let's keep this good train rolling. Peace.